Even the smoothest contest prep phase you can possibly imagine is still a big, difficult undertaking. All of my clients who have competed will tell you that, and they will also tell you that you just don't know what you're getting yourself into until you cross that finish line. Nonetheless, I'm going to try and clear the air a little bit. I've broken down the things that you need to know into three main categories. There are expectations, mindset, and logistics, or practical concerns as well. This is not a step-by-step guide for contest prep, but instead just a good overview of the things that I feel you should know before you jump into the process and commit to doing your first show. Thanks for watching. I'm Darren Starr. I do contest prep coaching for a living. I've worked with seasoned competitors and a whole lot of first-timers as well. If this is your first time here, go ahead and click the subscribe button down below so you'll be notified when I post new videos. And also check out the description and click on the link for my free training primer. This is a great write-up on how to approach your workouts, what matters, what doesn't, and how you can keep progressing and avoid plateaus. So, contest prep, what you need to know. Let's dive in. Category 1, expectations. Now, the first thing to expect is probably the biggest and the most important thing, and that is just that this is hard. Contest prep is hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it, or perhaps nobody would do it. I think one of the things that really draws people into this, I mean, certainly we want to see how lean we can get, what level of conditioning we can attain, but it's the challenge. The challenge is what really appeals to a lot of people in this, and they want to see what they can put themselves through, what they can sustain, and how much they can thrive under the pressures of contest prep. You can also expect you are going to be tired. Not necessarily like falling asleep behind the wheel of a car level tired, but you're going to be tired, you're going to be groggy, you're going to be sleepy a lot. You're pushing yourself hard, so it's important that you get enough sleep and that it is of a good quality as well. Expect your life to revolve around food. Whether you are following a macronutrient-based plan or a straight meal plan, your precision and accuracy in following that plan through the long term of your prep counts, and it counts big time. You can also expect that for a good portion of your prep, you're probably going to be hungry. Such is the nature of fat loss. You can expect that you are going to be sick of cardio. For some people, perhaps sooner rather than later. And you're also going to be sore a lot. In prep especially, I tend to favor higher frequency training. During an off season or a growth phase, you can get away with lower frequency training just because recovery really helps when you're trying to grow. When you're trying to lean out, being more metabolically active is much more useful, so higher level training frequency is a bit more helpful. One good rule of thumb is if something isn't sore anymore, it's probably time to train it, right? Especially with legs. So just expect you're going to be sore, and if you aren't, it might be a good time to reevaluate your training, how you're going through it, perhaps get in some kind of reset, or maybe incorporate a little bit of rest here and there, just to make sure that your training stays on par and as intense as it needs to be. Another thing to expect is that you will not feel ready. No matter how developed you are, no matter how lean you get, especially for your first show, when you don't have a basis for comparison. Like, I've done this before, and I know I was here, so I need to get there again. You know, you're doing it for the first time, you don't have anything to compare against. So you will probably not feel ready until you get some validation post-show, either through a trophy or seeing the photos or just seeing the other people that are back there with you and saying, yeah, I can hang with these people. At that point, you'll kind of feel ready. But for the long duration up to that, because that's all show day, everything before show day, you will probably not feel ready. Especially if you're a social media stalker and you look at other people that you know are doing the show, you're going to see what they put out, and you know it's always their best and brightest. You're comparing your real life to somebody else's highlight reel, that kind of thing. So I'd caution to do a little bit less of that. Focus on you and just know that it is normal to not feel ready. Another thing to consider, you can expect that show day is going to be A, very long, and B, a mess. I realized that was 1 and 2 and I said A and B. That's fine, roll with it. Show day is a mess. Usually backstage, it's disorganized, it's chaotic. Some people will refer to it as a controlled chaos, except in my experience, there's never really anybody controlling it. It's just chaos at like a low level, at least all day long. It's slow, nobody knows what's going on. The facilitators that are calling out numbers, bless their hearts, they're doing the best they can, but they just can't give people enough time because things move and change very quickly. So expect that, you know, you're going to have not nearly as much time to pump up as you want to. It's going to be a big question mark as to where you're supposed to be and when. And then when that flurry of activity is over, it's a lot and a lot and a lot of waiting. Category number 2, mindset. So these are things that we want to consider to make sure that your head is in the right space before you jump into prep. This kind of goes along with expectations, but it's much more about the mental game. So the first thing to consider is that prep is going to be emotional. This goes for men and women true. A lot of people think, oh, women so emotional. Guys, we have a pretty a fragile emotional state as well. So it can be overwhelming at times. You need to understand that prep is designed really to expose your weaknesses. So you're going to discover those, you're going to uncover some strengths as well, but sometimes being exposed to those weaknesses, it's not really a pleasant thing to say, hey, this is something I want to be good at and I'm really struggling with this, or I thought this was a strength, but at some point it actually becomes a weakness. It's not necessarily fun to face those things. So that's a lot of where the emotional challenge of this comes from, but just anticipate that going into it. It can be a great learning experience if you take the opportunity to treat it as such. I always tell people that whenever there's a failure involved, and I kind of loosely define that term as being something a little vague, but whenever you quote unquote fail at something, it's an opportunity to learn. So that goes for struggles as well. So when you struggle with a phase of your prep, it's a chance to learn a little bit more about yourself and kind of reflect inward, assess why am I struggling with this, and then hopefully learn something from that, and then maybe over time you can turn that into a strength. Understand also, as far as your mindset is concerned, that this is going to be stressful. It's going to create new stresses perhaps, and it's also going to expose existing stresses. So it's a good plan, a good idea to have a plan in place to manage your stress factors. These are things like family stress, job stress, financial stress, relationship stress. All of those things go into the same bucket as the good stuff, which is the physical stress that comes from training. That's how we get our body to change in the way that we want it to. Unfortunately, we can call it a bucket, or a good analogy might be a balloon. All of that stress goes into the same balloon. You need some of it in there to give the balloon some shape, but too much of it and it pops. So we need to mitigate or manage some of those other stress factors that are inherently negative. So come up with a plan in place. And the other thing is to compartmentalize your stress. This is a huge skill. This isn't something where you can just say, oh, okay, great, I'm doing that and it's done. It's a skill that takes practice and has to be developed over time. A lot of people, when they get stressed out, they use the gym as their outlet and they go in there and they're just going to attack a workout and absolutely kill it. Other people, and I would put myself in this category as well, allow it to be more of a distracting factor. I can't channel stress in that way. So what I have to do instead is just think, all right, I'm here, I'm at the gym, I'm going to be here for the next hour, hour and a half, whether I have a good workout or a crappy workout. So I'm going to forget about that stuff that I can't do anything about right now, and focus on putting in the best quality session that I possibly can. So I'm going to try and train my mindset a little bit and think about how I want things to progress through the workout, how I'd like to feel when it's done, and really put yourself in the moment and focus on the task at hand, knowing that as soon as you're done, there's going to be plenty of time to worry about all that other stuff. In your mind, have it set and understand that there is going to be sacrifice involved. So this is a sacrifice of time, because you need to make time for cardio, for lifting, for meal prep. You're going to have to sacrifice some social interactions as well. If you are accustomed to going out drinking regularly, well, that is not going to happen. You need to expect that if you're going to really throw yourself into this and have a successful contest prep phase, that means you're not going to be drinking anything but water. Certainly no alcohol for the duration of your prep. Alcohol is a metabolic depressant. It just can't be a part of a successful contest prep under any circumstances. So some social interactions will need to be either minimized or changed. You can still go out with friends, understand that you're going to be eating things that are in line with your plan. You're going to be drinking water or things like that. So you don't have to live in complete and total isolation. And honestly, I think that doing that, a lot of people will just say, I'm going to live in a cave for the next 4 months and get ready for this show. For what? I think bodybuilding is great to pursue as a passion, but you need to try and have a little bit of balance in there with it. So don't be a hermit. Don't put yourself in a sensory deprivation tank for 4 or 5 months to get ready for a show, but just understand that you are going to have to make some sacrifices. If you have problems, and I'm being intentionally vague with that, doing a show is not going to fix them. Specifically, if you have body image problems, body dysmorphia, anything in that category, doing a show is probably only going to enhance those issues, not minimize them or help you come to peace with them. So, you find solutions through those problems internally, not through external validation. And if you feel that you do achieve some kind of resolution through external validation, through doing a show, through getting a trophy, through getting positive feedback, I would challenge you that you probably haven't properly defined those problems in the first place. Another thing as far as your mindset is concerned is the people around you, your family, your friends, to varying degrees, they love you and they're there to support you. So don't be an asshole to them. You're going to be hangry. I know you're going to be tired. You're feeling pulled in a whole bunch of different directions. Show prep is stressing you out. Don't take it out on them. They want to help you. They love you. They want to support you. Your expectations for what you can expect from them will certainly vary from one situation to the next, but just check yourself before you wreck yourself. Be cautious of what you say. There's that shirt out there that I think everybody in prep needs. I apologize for the things I said when I was hungry. Just try not to say those things in the first place. Keep the people around you happy, kind of take one for the team, and then blow off some steam in the gym. Okay, and category number 3, this is the fun one in my mind, is practical or logistical concerns. So the first one here is to plan ahead well in advance. I get a lot of inquiries from people saying, hey, there's a show in 10 weeks, can you help me get ready for it? And, I will oftentimes say, probably not, but let's take a look at things. Just because 10 weeks isn't enough time. If it's your first show especially, unless for whatever reason you are in incredible shape already, great, we can probably get you stage ready in about 10 weeks. Most people need more than that. Some people get ready for their first show over a period of years. So depending on the division you're competing in, if you're doing bikini, if you're doing figure, physique, you need to make sure that you have sufficient development so that when you cut down, there's still enough shape left in your body that it's actually worth going through the process. I always ask people, what are you doing this for? Are you doing it because you just want to go through the process and see what it's like? Do you want to actually be competitive in your first show? Because there can be a huge difference between those two goals. So you need to make sure that you have sufficient development, plan ahead. So if you think you've got an inkling, you're watching this video and you're like, I think I might want to do a show. Find a coach, get a professional opinion. It could be me, it could be anybody. Somebody that you trust, somebody that you think jives with you and will work with your personality and will push you and not just coddle you and tell you what you want to hear, because that's really easy to do, but that's not what makes a good coach. But reach out to this person well in advance, and they should go through an assessment or an evaluation with you. I will do this with anybody that emails me and say, hey, here's where I'm right now, here's some pics, this is what my routine looks like, I'm thinking about doing a show. What division do you think I'd fit best in, and how long do you think I'd need? And then I will always offer people, ranges. Like, we could do it in as little time as this, and I think you would be much better off if we focused on XYZ for a little bit and looked at this time frame instead. So do your research, plan ahead. Another practical consideration is that in your profession, think about, if somebody goes into Google and types in your name, what do you want them to see? And maybe it has nothing to do with profession. Maybe you're just a very private person and you don't want your contest photos out there whenever anybody Googles your name. That is your right. So just be aware that if you compete with your real name, that is what will happen. People will type in your name, they will search for you, they will see those photos, and then they're just out there because they do get posted everywhere. So you can compete with, a stage name, if you will. Nobody's checking your IDs, the promoters, the NPC, whatever organization is, they just want your money. So they don't need to see proof of who you are, they don't need your social security number or anything like that. So you can create a stage name for yourself. If you're competing in the NPC, for example, you'll need an NPC card, and the name on that card should match the name that you register for the show with, so when you present your card, they will know it is you, whatever name you go by. So just keep that in mind. It is another consideration. Think about that before you do a show. Another thing to consider, and this is the big one here, is cost. I have a little cheat sheet for myself here, so we're going to go over this here. Competing is expensive. By any stretch, it is expensive. There are ranges, there are options, there are things that you can pay for or elect not to pay for. You can do it yourself. So running down here, You have coaching, which runs anywhere from $100 to $400 a month or more. Some coaches, like me, I do a monthly rate. I don't do packages for 12 or 16 weeks or anything like that. It's just monthly. A lot of coaches will say, you can purchase a 16-week contest prep package for this, and then you just need to know what's involved in that. Prorated out though, it's going to run you anywhere from $100, which is really, really inexpensive, up to, I've certainly seen coaches that are $500, $600 a month, although those are pretty high end, but it's not uncommon to see $350, $400 a month for coaching. For your suit, women, you could spend as little as $100 on a suit. You get something used, you get something off the rack, you can compete in that, great. You kind of get what you pay for, and a lot of the draw for doing this, with women in particular, is they want that fancy suit. They want to get that, they want to get up on stage, and they want to feel the part. They want to feel like, they're part of a fairly glamorous pageant or contest, which is totally fair. So you could spend upwards of $600 on a suit very easily. That's not an uncommon amount to pay. Somewhere in the middle of the road, $300, $400, you can get away with a decent suit for that. And if you go on the used side, you need to find something that is close to your size, and then you can get it altered to fit you specifically. You can save a little money doing that. The tan for the show, if you pay for a professional spray tan service, which I would highly recommend, it will make your life a lot easier. Going to run you from $100 to $150, most likely. You can purchase product and do it yourself, and that's going to set you back more like $20. This is one thing where you do get what you pay for. You'll spend a lot of time doing that. The coverage is never quite as even. You're never going to be as dark as if you'd just gotten sprayed at the show. So it is a way that you can save some money, however. Ladies, hair and makeup. This is going to run you somewhere between $100 to $150 at a base to do those, and then you can pay a whole bunch of money for additional options on top of that. You could also elect to do this yourself if you have experience with it. Just keep in mind, stage makeup is a very, very different beast. There are lots of tutorials that you could find online, however, so if you want to invest the time and learn how to do that yourself, it is another way to save a little bit of money. You'll need an organization card. So if you're competing in the NPC, for example, that's $125 just to have the right to register for the show and then pay that fee as well. And that fee is going to range anywhere from $50 to $150 for the show. For a national level show, which certainly is not going to be your first show, but recording this on November 20th, this past weekend was NPC Nationals in Miami. Registration for that was $350. So $50 to $150 for a smaller local show, pretty typical. There are crossovers involved, so you can compete in one class and then cross over to another class. Like if it's your first show, you can compete in Bikini Novice. Then you can also do Open. If you are 30, 35 or over, you can compete in a Masters division as well. All of those, if you want to do that, it's just additional chances to appear on stage, additional chances for experience, wins, etc. All of those are going to cost you, however, and oftentimes it's just the show registration, again, for each class you want to enter. So if it's $100 for the registration, you can count on a $100 crossover for each additional division you want. So if you want to do Novice, Open, and Masters, $300 right there. Hotel. Unless a show is really close to home, I would strongly recommend staying in a hotel so you don't have to worry about travel on the day of. You can go a day early, you can get registered, checked in, get your meals all set up, you wake up in the morning, you're there, you go to the meeting, you're ready for the stage, less hassle that way. $100 a night or more probably. If you have travel expenses on top of that, gas, if you're flying to a show, I wouldn't recommend that for a first show. For a national level show, it's more common that you're going to have to travel just because they're only in certain locations. Time off work, that could be a soft expense. If you have to take time off work that you don't get compensated for, that's another cost. And then the other thing, simply the typical things, food, supplements, gym memberships, those are all things that are constants throughout your contest prep. Posing is another practical consideration. Posing is so critically important to your overall presentation when you're on stage. You need to practice it early and you need to practice it often. It's another thing you have to budget some time for, and possibly another expense, because a lot of people do want to work with a posing coach, someone that they can work with hands-on. I do contest prep, so I'm all about people's diet, training, supplementation. I will give them posing guidance as well. I'll look at some video work. I'll critique their still shots as well. Some people just want a hands-on experience with a posing coach, so that is another thing to consider. Peak week. I get people before they even start prep asking me, what's peak week gonna be like? So this is the week leading up to the show. And it really depends. It depends on the division that you're in, how well your prep has gone, how lean you are, and all of those things. I would say for most people competing in the bikini division, for most women in that division, your peak week should look very similar to a normal week. If you find yourself doing all kinds of crazy crap to try and get ready for show day, chances are your coach thinks you're behind and they want to try and catch up and they're hoping for a miracle, so they're just going to throw some crap on the wall and see what sticks. Or they want to have you doing all kinds of crazy stuff so you feel like, wow, this is magic. I don't know what they're doing, but they must be smart. You don't have to do much. Maybe a little bit of manipulation of water and some carbs. It depends. Everybody's a little bit different. But your peak week should not look super crazy. It should look pretty much like a normal week. Another practical consideration is whether you follow a meal plan or follow a macronutrient-based plan. For the most part, I'm a firm believer that it really doesn't matter all that much. If you need to get super shredded, 3-4% body fat, macronutrients will still work, but you're gonna have enough limitations and restrictions on what foods you're taking in, you might as well just be on a set meal plan because you're not gonna be working in Oreos as your post-workout carb source. But I find typically for most people, especially in the bikini division, macronutrients work great. It's just about what works best for your brain, because some people have a difficult time being accurate with their macronutrients. They have a difficult time just processing it and staying on top of it. They just want to follow a set plan. That's fine. Either approach is good. Another practical consideration is that once the show is done and gone, your job is not over. You cannot just go cold turkey after a show and say, all right, I'm gonna take a month off from training. I'm not gonna worry about my diet. I'm gonna sleep in and stop doing cardio. Life's gonna be good. No, you do that and a month into that, you're gonna look like you've never set foot in the gym in your life. So you need to plan on follow through after the show. So it's show day, you're working up towards that, but you've got to know that, if I really keep things in line for the next 2 or 3 weeks after the show, that's gonna help tremendously to minimize rebound and to retain as much of that conditioning as you possibly can. Now, we're peaking for a show. You're getting to a level of conditioning you haven't been before. It's unreasonable to expect to maintain that after the show, but I think a lot of people for their first show especially should be able to remain within striking distance of that, especially in the bikini division. It's not an unhealthy aesthetic to maintain, and I think most people can do that. You can maintain a good level of conditioning while still post-show getting your calories up, bringing your cardio back down, and trying to put on some size and grow and build and get ready for the next show. So there you have it. I've just emptied my brain on everything I think you should know before jumping into prep for your first show. Now, please don't take this as me saying that I don't think anybody should compete. I just really want everybody who does to go in and commit to the process with a good idea of what comes ahead, so that hopefully you can get surprised by as few things as possible along the way. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like button down below, share it with your friends all across the interwebs, subscribe to the channel for future updates. I would appreciate all of those things very much. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.